This video was uploaded by Humble is the Way.
Oh, I know what you're thinking, baby. I know where you're at. But roles don't change based on financial income. Are you following what I'm saying? And some women would say, well, I make the money. I'm the provider, so I'm the head. Wait a minute, honey. Hold tight. I hear you. I feel you. But you got to understand, roles don't change. And before this lesson's over, I'm going to show you being a provider is not limited to finances. And that's why most of us have a huge problem in marriages when it comes to being heads, because we associate headship with who brings in the most money, and therefore there can be a house with a lot of money, but the house is still out of order. You can still have a house in chaos regardless of how much money is coming in that house. And you can be given money and still not be a provider. Are y'all still with me on this morning? So let me deal with this and make you understand this as best as I can do. Now, we dealt with submission to some degree on last week. I want to focus in on headship on today. Now, let me help you understand what headship is. What does it mean to be the head of my house? What does it mean to be the head of my home? The word, you just stay with me. We're going to go to school for a few minutes, okay? Just for a few minutes. The word head is the Greek term kephale. Let me explain what that means. It means one who is an authority. Okay. Now, it could refer to your physical head, but in this passage, it is used metaphorically to describe the position of the husband in the family. It means he is the chief or the one who is the authority. Y'all follow this? Now, being an authority doesn't mean you should be an authoritarian. Come here. Hold on. Come closer. There's a difference between being an authority in my house and being an authoritarian. Now, an authoritarian desires blind submission. In other words, I lead, you follow, don't ask no questions. That's an authoritarian. Authoritarian says what I say goes regardless of if I'm right or wrong. You see, are you following this? That's an authoritarian. And authoritarians are very insecure when they feel like you are trying to infringe on their authority. And they view other people's strengths as opposition rather than assets. As a husband, I can be an authority but not be an authoritarian. It means I don't want my wife to follow me blindly. Because if I'm headed in a wrong direction, although I'm an authority, I might need some guidance. And my wife must have a voice in the marriage bond, because even though I'm an authority, I ought to be willing to submit when I don't know something. Headship is not about I'm in charge. Okay, all right. I know I'm challenging some traditions here. If I'm an authority in my house, and I am, but my wife sees me headed for a ditch, I am the authority in my house. I didn't even mean that to be funny, Brother Wilson. Y'all something else, boy. Y'all say, no, you're not. In public, I'm the authority in my house. But if my wife sees me going in a dangerous direction, as an authority, I don't shun advice. Now. Authoritarians need to understand that that's not the kind of leadership Christ gave. And I'll be in there in just a minute. When you are an authority in your home, and you are, this does not negate the voice of your spouse or even your children. Okay? So you have to begin to understand, as an authority, I'm not an authoritarian. And while I'm an authority, I must not see my wife as a competitor. I need to see her as an asset. Not a competitor, but a complement. Let me say that again. She's not a competitor, she's a complement. And if she's strong where I'm weak, that makes her my complement. Because I must not view her as my inferior, I need to view her as my companion. And my companion is my complement. And since she's my complement, we don't compete. Y'all see that? So in a marriage bond, it's not about, if she's better at something than I am, I embrace that. Because she's my, now that doesn't change I'm the head of the home. It just means that her role is to assist. That's what it means to be a helpmeet. It means she takes her strengths, put it with mine, and she assists me in leading God's family in the way it ought to go. Are you following what I'm saying? Too many times we're insecure at our wife's strengths. Her strength becomes my asset. Her strength is my complement, and I don't need to compete just because she's strong in an area that I'm not. Are y'all following what I'm saying? So the definition of head, definition, he's chief. It means he holds the position of authority. Now, whenever you study a word in the Bible, whenever you study a word, let's say we take the word water, and we say we're going to define the word water. And I take this word water, and I define it, I say it's H2O. Now, I take that same word, water, and I attach it to the word living, like Jesus did, and now I say living water. Now, the definition of water just changed. When you study the Bible, not only should you define words, but you have to know how the word works with the other words in the passage. Y'all follow that? So now, if I say water is H2O, when I say living water, now I know the definition changed because water is not alive. Y'all follow that? We just defined head. Now, but that definition of head is modified by the rest of that verse. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as. Now he's going to modify and put this definition in proper context. Now, that means what I am to my wife, that's what Christ is to the church. And if I want to understand headship, then my headship must be mirrored by his headship. Now, you can't get out of these passages, brethren, the idea of an authoritarian, because that's not the kind of head that Christ was. And what Paul says, if you're going to be the head of your house, you've got to do it parallel to how Christ is head of the church. So now, whatever your definition of headship is, you've got to let Christ define that if you are the authority, what kind of authority are you? Are y'all following this? Watch Paul. Paul's a master. Paul said, you're the head of the house as Christ is the head of the church. Then he said, who gave himself. Not only did he give himself, but he cleansed it, sanctified it, washed it, and presented it. Everything the head does, he does for the benefit of the spouse. Which makes him not an authoritarian, it makes him a servant leader. Are y'all following this? See, brethren got to get this, because sometimes brothers, we got such egos. And so much so they will say stuff like, I run my house. I make the decision. What you're really talking like is an authoritarian. Because I guarantee you, if you're married for 4 or 5 days, you know full well sometimes you need your wife to make a decision. I mean, no, now you ain't got to tell the truth here, but every now and then you say, what you think? Just go and tell the truth. We don't got all the headship does not make me the kind of person that eliminates the voice of my spouse. Headship has to do with everything that man does. He's doing it to the benefit of his spouse and his children. Jesus, what kind of head you are? Let me tell you what kind of head I am. Gave myself for it. Sacrificial. Sanctified her, made her my possession. my personal valued possession. Cleansed her. That means he was forgiving.